Okay, so the tutorial that I'll be showing today is kind of a different take on how to do a laser beam. This is kind of what the finished product-ish would look like. I added in, obviously, an explosion afterwards just to kind of be a little bit more destructive. So the laser beam is actually more of kind of a stream of laser particles rather than just a regular beam. So that's kind of what the finished product looks like. So in order to start this ourselves, we're going to come in and create a new composition. I already have this one just set up with the clip that we're going to be using for our one shot with the laser. And so obviously I just dragged in my footage. So what we need to do first is to create a new solid, and this will just allow us to create on top of it. And it doesn't matter what type of color it is. And then now we're going to get our particle emitter that's going to create the laser, and this is called Particle World, so just search it in the effects, CC Particle World, and just grabbing that and dragging it on top of our new solid, you can see that we have this particle emitter. And this is kind of what it looks like, just raw, unedited at this point. And so we're just going to take off the other footage so we can see what we're doing with this particle emitter so we can get it set up before we bring it back into the footage that we have. And so going into the particles on this side, going in under the physics tab, we want this to be on a directional axis so that it's going one direction, and we don't want there to be any gravity, so we can make it go directly into in the exact position that we want it to go. And for positioning, this is just kind of the position that I had it in, so this is what I knew that I wanted, but you can mess with these angles, and then obviously in the directional axis as well to kind of figure out what exactly where you want it positioned, at what angle you want it to come from, and where you want it to go. So this is the angle that I kind of figured out worked best for me, and now we want the particle emitter to be up over here as if it's coming from the drone that we have. So far this is what we have for our laser, and it doesn't look that bad already, so kind of this slow emission of particles. So coming into the particles, we can actually edit it a little bit further. So right now, the particles being emitted are lines, and we can't edit the lines any very in depth, so we need to kind of switch it to a different emission, and we're going to use shaded sphere. And now with the shaded sphere, we can kind of edit what size it is when it's birthed, what size it is when it dies, kind of at the end of the lifespan. So I like to make the end a little bit smaller just so that it dies out like a laser, I guess. I guess a laser doesn't really die out, but that's okay. I just kind of like it to be smaller at the end of the laser stream. So the size variation is fine, as well as the opacity being at 75%, and that's just nice because laser is not completely solid, so it is possible to see kind of on the fringes of it. So the next thing we're going to do is switch the color up. I like to have the first part be a little darker and the end kind of be a little lighter, so it kind of gives this nice effect of the laser dying off a little bit, which is really cool. So the next thing we're going to be doing, since this is kind of obviously very visibly spheres, we're going to fix that by applying a directional blur. You can just search that in the effects as well. Kind of drag it over to the layer. Obviously I knew these values from when I had previously done it, so I knew the angle I wanted it at, and I also knew the blur length that I wanted it at, and you can kind of see that you no longer see the spheres coming from the laser. Let's see if we can get it going here. Yeah, you no longer see the spheres coming from the laser, but you kind of see this blurred effect, so it just kind of looks like this stream coming from something else. So the laser that I had created that I originally showed in the beginning was moving at a lot faster pace, So in order to fix that, we're going to go up into the velocity and bump it up to 7. It's kind of hard to see that. So I'm actually going to come in here and make this a little brighter so we can see that a little better. So you can kind of see now that it has definitely increased speed, but there isn't much to it. So we need to also bump up the birth rate to about 30. So now you can kind of see this is a nice stream coming through here of particles. So next what we have to do is, since the laser that we want isn't a continuous stream, we just kind of want it to be a burst, kind of like a shot from a gun. So we want to actually have this die out at one point. In order to do that, we have to come down into here, into our black solid, and into the birth rate effects. And the reason we're doing this down here is because we want it to be time sensitive. So what we can do is we can actually key the birth rate at one point and then key it again at another point. So I'm just going to key this right here at 30. So at this point it's emitting 30 particles. And then over here I'm going to key another value at 0. So it moves pretty fast, but eventually then the stream will be over and it's kind of like it's a shot. So I actually want to move this a little bit closer so that the stream's a little bit shorter. And then we can kind of see how this looks. There we go. So it's kind of like this short burst of particles. And that's about it for how to actually make the particle emitter look somewhat like a laser. If we bring back our footage, we can, obviously it's not in the right spot, but we can tweak that to appearing at the right time, kind of bring it into exactly where we want it to come. And even the size can be edited as well up here, kind of transforming the, kind of figuring out where we want it to be, how thin we want it to be. We can still tweak that angle. So obviously the one that I showed previously had a glow on it, and that's really easy to accomplish just coming into here, into your effects, searching glow, dragging it over to the solid that we want it on. You can kind of make it glow. Obviously this is a little bit darker, but you can see that it's glowing there. And then also applying another one of these lasers directly on top of it. So kind of having two lasers on top of each other. The one on top can actually be a lighter color so that it has the effect of being kind of within this outer colored laser. So it kind of looks more realistic, kind of maybe a hotter laser on the inside rather than the cooler blue on the outside. So that's just another aspect you can add to this laser, just kind of making it have more depth and be more realistic. And then obviously the explosions are also pretty easy to accomplish if you already have a composited explosion. Just dragging that in after the laser hits can really create kind of more complete laser effect within your shot. So this is kind of how you would make a laser in a little bit of a different way, more of a laser particle stream than just a simple laser beam. So I hope you liked it.